What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of Man Talk. Thanks for joining us. If you're joining us for the first time, Man Talk is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, we're men talking, man.
A couple men talking it out, diving into real, relevant, and gritty topics that a lot of times we set to the side, whether it's because of fear, other obstacles that get in the way.
Yeah, busy guys, man. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Vince, Minnesota. We've talked a lot about the best parts about Minnesota. I mean, we're talking summers, lakes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's something you hate about Minnesota?
Oh, I hate the cold winter when it happens, man. I tell you, as soon as it starts to get cold, I call that complaining season is what I call that. So there's like summer and then complaining season.
Yes, yeah. I come from extended family owns a road construction business, and they call it road construction and road destruction.
Oh, nice.
Season.
Yeah,
they build all the roads during the summer and
yeah.
they break them all during
I
the
know,
winter.
it's awful, man. You can't drive anywhere around here in the
Yeah.
summertime, right? But yeah, and it's interesting because in the wintertime, we in Minnesota go outside, of course, and we like to brave the cold, but I'm just not that
for
guy.
all of like 4 days.
Yeah, exactly. For just a few seconds, right?
we sit around
from
with our hot
walking from
chocolate.
my car to the house or something like that. But I got to tell you, when it's wintertime, man, you move into the indoors and you kind of get this cabin fever thing that goes on for like 6 months,
Yes.
It drives me crazy and it sends me into this mild fit of depression, to be quite honest. So
what a lead into the topic we're talking about today.
There you go.
I don't know how you did that, man. It was brilliant.
Unplanned.
Yeah, so we're continuing on marriage, family. We do want to dive into depression. Again, we're so thankful for counseling care and just some of the resources that Marcus and his team have helped us with as we start to kind of build up this show and talking about just the different challenges that we face as guys relative to not only marriage, family, but especially when it comes to depression and emotional health. Thankful for their team and some of the resources that they got. And again, once we talk about a few more things, some great resources, counselingcare.us.us. Awesome thing for any guys that are looking for some resources. So to kick it off, what has been some of your experiences around depression, whether it's personal things, friends, people that you've helped walk through that, family members?
Yeah, depression is something I think that every human being at some point is going to face a moment with depression, whether it's around a significant life event, which is kind of a seasonal type of depression, or
Minnesota winters.
Yeah, exactly, for me. Yeah, every year, right? And that is a real thing. I mean, people in the state suffer from greater seasons of depression because of the state of the winter, right? But there are also people that are, I would say, clinically depressed and deal with depression on a longer, bigger scale in their life. And we probably all have at least one friend who's dealt with depression. And unfortunately, it is a real thing that happens that is very challenging for many people. And it's hard to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
You probably know people too.
That
have suffered through clinical depression.
Friends, coworkers, family members, things like that. And I think this is one of the interesting things too. It seems like it's so prevalent. It seems like whether it's from an awareness standpoint or whatever it is, it's just in the national spotlight with, shows like 13 Reasons or whatever that one is that's, talking about teen depression and teen suicide and stuff like that. The NBA has had all this stuff over the last couple of years with athletes coming out and just talking about different issues around mental health, but a lot focused on depression.
Yeah.
Do you think, is this a growing issue nationally? What are some of the things that we're seeing happening that's really leading to this?
Well, I think Marcus Bachman over at Counseling Care would say it's probably one of the predominant reasons that people come in to see him would be depression and anxiety, of course, too. But I think it is a growing issue, and there must be things happening in our world today that are instigating that, that are causing people to live in a state of depression, whether it be some sort of chemical issue that they're dealing with in their own life, or a state or seasons that are much prolonged because of issues that they're facing. And of course, I think that spiritually, God wants to lead us out of those seasons, but it isn't exclusively a spiritual issue. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah.
not only a spiritual issue, because
Yeah.
some people deal with long bouts of this chemically just because of how their body is wired and are naturally disposed to it. So there are genetic reasons for depression
Yeah.
as well. So it makes it just really hard to define. And so people are going to try to get help to kind of understand, what is this? Is it a seasonal thing or is it a chemical thing?
Right. Well, I think that's such an important distinction that you make too. I think that's one of the things that I took away from Marcus through this whole piece, was that depression's not a character defect. I think a lot of times, especially from, a faith-based or Christian perspective, a lot of times we'll associate depression with a flaw in my character, or a sinful nature thing, or stuff like that. And so just to have, a guy of his expertise and credibility come out and say it's not a character defect, I think it's a huge thing, and actually can, potentially lead us to a lot of freedom as we start to look at all the different physical, psychological, spiritual components of it that really kind of make up our health. But I thought that was amazing coming from Marcus.
If you think about that too, I mean, if people start to attach it to a character issue, they'll just continue to spiral downward. And sometimes people, unfortunately, because they don't understand depression, because it is a little elusive to try to understand it, they'll use shame or guilt to try to motivate people out of it, and it doesn't do a lot to help the situation, right? And then unfortunately, people get it stuck in their head that there's something wrong with me. And as soon as they start to think there's something wrong with me in an unfixable kind of way, like there's something wrong with me that cannot be fixed, they begin to lose hope. And, of course, that just catalyzes a downward movement that isn't really helpful for people that are already in a state of depression. And I think Christians, to be quite honest, are a little confused by it and perplexed as to what to do. I mean, I've had friends who are, I would say, clinically depressed, and I have a hard time understanding sometimes how to help them, because I don't know their unique experience with the state of that depression, and I don't want to see them stay that way. And I know that in some form too, they don't want to be in that state as well, right? Come on.
I think that I sat down with a friend recently that's gone to receive some care and things like that, and one of the eye-opening things for me was, she said, a lot for a huge part of my life, I saw depression as this end product of, I'm walking through all these scenarios, all these environments and situations, and depression is kind of what's at the end of it. But she's like, it's actually more of a filter on the front end. Like it's just taking more energy to do all these things in my life. And that was one of the things Marcus mentioned well, is kind of this shade being pulled down. So, I mean, you're talking about triggers, environments, all these different things. How do you dig in? How do you identify what the real problem is?
I think that's where the people out there that are trying to understand that and need to sit in front of a counselor who can kind of storyboard the issues over a long period of time. I think this is where counselors become very helpful. Even in my own life, I've had a bout with depression in my life, and it was a number of years ago now. And I remember the Minnesota winters added to it, and it started kind of with this, it's called SAD, but seasonal affect disorder, which is a mild depression. And I came from a very sunny state, California. And because I came from a very sunny place, moving to a place that has prolonged winters for like 9 months of the year. I'm over exaggerating now, but for a long period of time.
Can't I just get insurance to pay for a trip down to Florida or Mexico or something like that?
We could do this from a sunnier place. We could. So, the funny thing
Sponsored
is...
by Disney World.
We could do that, right? But what I came to discover was, over many years of now living in Minnesota, that this kind of seasonal affect disorder was really affecting me. Chemistry-wise, was affecting my vitamin intake, my kind of need for the outdoors. And then one year I had a little bout with depression. So I went in to see a doctor. And sure enough, they said, yeah, you probably have a serious issue here with seasonal affect. And they actually prescribed some medicine for me. I used it for about a couple of weeks. It really kind of messed with me, but it jarred me out of kind of this chemical imbalance that I was experiencing enough that I kind of felt okay after a couple of weeks of it. And then it started to get warm out again. And it just, all of a sudden, my demeanor changed. And I was kind of ashamed that I had to go in and see a doctor and kind of talk through it and try to understand it. But they were very willing to help me through it. And I think some people, need to do that. They need to go see a psychiatrist or a doctor and kind of sit down with them and tell them what's going on, because often they have some answers for you that maybe you need to hear, but it's a one-by-one, case-by-case basis. It's no telling. Your experience with depression, if you've had one or will have one, will be different from mine, right? And so we've just got to be willing to not be so proud to go get some help and have someone speak into the issues.
I think that's such a good message for our listeners there too, is as much as we can just, fight off that shame. Like I think, for guys, that can be a challenge for everything. We've talked about just the different obstacles that puts in front of relationships, whether it's relationships with our wife, relationships with God, relationships with other guys. But I mean, that shame thing and that the pride on the other side of that of not going to see someone, I think can be a huge disadvantage sometimes.
Let me add to this. Because I went to that doctor, this is probably like 10 years ago now, something in that time frame. Because I went to that doctor, it initiated something in me that said, I need to get out of this state during the winter. And so I have really changed my behavior patterns in the winter, and I've got some great friends in other parts of the world. And so I go visit them in the winter, and that's been really good for me to keep me out of that state.
Yeah.
But it's that awareness of that and kind of pushing. I was ashamed. I really was. It was hard for me to go to the doctor and say that I had these problems. I even brought my wife with me, which was really hard.
Yeah.
And she says, I see these changes in my husband, and I had to kind of share them because I felt very unaware of them. But because of that, I'm now taking action and activity in my own life to prevent that from happening, which means I have to leave Minnesota, honey, in the wintertime. Like, I got to get out and I got to get some sun.
She can't be that bummed about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, she does get rid of me, but unfortunately I have to go somewhere else to experience it. But, maybe someday I'll live in a nice sunny place where some of our listeners live, and maybe I'll come visit some of them, like in the wintertime to get out of the place. So, and it helps me. It does. It's a significant help to know that I have those triggers. And if I just continue to try to do it on my own without managing those issues, then man, it's not a great place for me.
So seasons is one of those big things. That can be a trigger, for a lot of guys out there. What are some of the other things that we as men or just people in general can kind of struggle or be some of those other trigger points for depression?
I think, obviously major life events. I mean, come on, like we'll experience probably a tragic death in our life or a tragic circumstance or an illness, an ongoing illness that will lead us down those paths. I think those things will trigger it. I think I think people suffer with actual chemical issues in their body, unfortunately. I think that's another thing that triggers depression. It can be a variety of things, but sometimes I think, like, here's another issue and another reason why men go in that are in a state of depression is they lose their jobs. And this is big for men. In fact, I think this is probably one of the bigger issues that gives us a little myopic look into the heart of men. But men will go in finally to see a counselor for the very first time because they have lost their jobs. Their wives become irritated with them and say, you need to go get help. And what has happened is their whole identity has taken shape around their work. And now that's been removed from them, or it feels like it's been taken from them. And because it feels like it's been taken from them, their identity is lost. They've lost hope. They've lost hope for the future. They've lost all their definition. Unfortunately, that's probably a strange form of idolatry, right? Because they're getting all their self-worth from it. And now that's gone, they enter the state of depression or hopelessness, right? And the only way to really guide them through it is to reshape that identity, I believe, around Jesus Christ, right? And to understand that your value or worth doesn't come from the things that you do. It's the person that you are in Christ. And we have to reattach that. And because we've idolized this career for so long and this identity for so long, we grow depressed, right? So I think those are a few common reasons, major life events, issues, chemical problems, loss of job, all those things can be very formative in a man's life and lead to depression.
Yeah. Well, it's such a big piece of being able to, whether it's going to friends, brothers, or actually taking that step to see a professional, is having people to kind of give you that, objective third-party perspective, have people kind of help guide you through that. Because a lot of times, especially when you got that shade pulled over your eyes, trying to kind of navigate, it's like navigating your way through a dark forest at night. You feel a little bit lost in that. But what are steps? So obviously seeing a professional, but what are some steps we can take? Maybe we either feel like we're on the edge of that, or we're kind of starting to wrestle with some feelings of depression, or maybe it's been something that's been, really prevalent in our life for a long time. What are some steps that we can start to take?
Well, I think you've already mentioned one. You need to go get professional help, right? Mm-hmm. Just to talk through it, and don't be ashamed of it. Like, let go of the shame, let go of the personal guilt, let go of the pride that is keeping you from having that conversation with someone you trust. If you're a guy out there, I would suggest go find a guy counselor. I mean, like, if you live in the Minnesota area, I would suggest Counseling Care for sure. Go meet with one of their counselors, get connected, start talking it out. Take 4 or 5 sessions to meet with them over 5 weeks, so maybe a session a week, until you kind of can identify some things. And that's the next step, is to really identify what's triggering it. Number 2, figure out if it's something that needs to be medicated, because maybe you might need some medication to help balance it. And there's no shame in that. Like, some people feel bad that they have to medicate for certain things, but you can do small, tiny doses of things. We don't have to think about medication as I'm going to be like loopy for the rest of my life, and that I kind of am shamefully taking medicine because I don't know how to manage things myself. No.
Because we don't feel that way about other health issues.
Right.
Like, for some reason, depression
Yeah, exactly.
has its own
if I got an ED issue, holy smokes, there's plenty of commercials out there for that, right? There's all kinds of beautiful pills for that kind of stuff.
Right.
But when it comes to depression, we're afraid to talk about that, right? So 2 very different issues. We'll get into the sex thing next time. But, and not to take it lightly, like, really, it's okay, I think, even from a Christian perspective, to take small doses of medication that help us to balance out some chemical imbalances in our body. And
I think that's a powerful message. I think there are a lot of people out there that have been told completely different stories around that specific topic, where maybe they've heard it from a pulpit, or maybe from a Christian leader that they respect, that no, this is taking the place of God's work in your life and stuff. But I think that's a huge message for guys out there.
Yeah, I mean, there are some perspectives theologically that will say abstain from all those things, but we are not talking about massive doses of medicine. Like, look, if I rarely use ibuprofen, for example, but once in a while I take it because I got a stinking headache, or my back hurts or something. Like, we're talking about mild doses of medicine to create kind of a sense of balance, and you can request that from your doctor. You can say to them, look, I don't want something heavy here. I want something simple. I don't want to mess with, I want to try something, but I don't want to overdo it. And they'll step you through it and try different things with you over time. There's no shame in that. Yet I think some people are, unfortunately, spiritually shamed about that.
Absolutely.
I also think it's good for us to moderate other things, like the triggers that are setting these things off, like what is triggering this, and really do diligence with understanding that, like, we have this depressed state that we sometimes get in, but we never really process, like, what is really triggering this? Why do I feel this way? And sometimes, like, I've already mentioned this, job loss for a guy is a significant identity.
Even just job satisfaction. I mean, where you're at, how you're feeling about your team, how you're feeling about your work, how you're feeling about that being connected to your purpose.
Yes.
I mean, those are significant triggers as well.
Right. You and I have talked about those kinds of things. Like, in our interpersonal relationship, we talk about, like, if we're not being valued at work, then that causes us to really question ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that guys do those things but never talk about them. I also think that there's something to be moderated around health and exercise and wellness, to moderating some of those things. And there's also something about making advanced decisions as well, like thinking ahead of time of the things that we need to do. Like me, I think about what vacation am I going to take during the wintertime, right? And I'm planning that ahead of time so that I know that I kind of have these spacers or these bookends of, I know I'm going to do.
My wife calls them tickets.
Tickets.
I got a ticket at the end of the
Really?
At the end of this whole
How about
thing.
a free pass,
Exactly.
right? Like, there we go.
Exactly.
Like, I get a free pass to go somewhere. And my wife has been great about this. Like, she has been really helpful to allow me to go a place or two in the winter season to kind of get away from here and get away from the winter, and that has really helped me tremendously. So I think those are some things that men can do to moderate or address their depression, whatever it might be, whether it's season or it's a chemical, might be a chemical issue.
Yeah. Well, I think it's such a big topic overall because, I mean, like we said at the very beginning, it seems like it's just growing. It seems like you're either seeing more of it, hearing more of it, struggling with more of it in your family, relationships, and stuff like that. And I think as men, to be equipped to actually confront some of those things head on in our own lives, head on in the lives of the people around us, I think it's so valuable. I mean, when we're talking about being men that are getting off the bench and getting into the game, this is a big game right now.
Yeah.
This is a big game in our culture and one that we really got to step up in.
Isn't that right? Like it's not just about getting over it.
Yeah.
Right. That's not the message that we want to say to guys is just like get over your depression. It's no, get off the bench and get into the game. And this situation may mean taking a courageous step to do something about it that you've never done before. And that might mean going to talk to a counselor. It might be as simple as that. Or talking to your wife and saying, look, I think I need help. And I don't know that I could provide the help for myself that I need.
Yeah.
That is a great step for a man. So
Absolutely. Good. Well, I think that's a huge message for our listeners. Depression is not a character defect. Don't sink into even more depression as you wrestle with, is this sin or things? But there's awesome opportunities. God's given us tools, resources, brotherhood, all these things to really step in and identify the path that he really wants us to take in that. So getting off the bench, getting into the game. But got some resources, beresolute.org/family, any of the stuff that we've been talking about this episode, other episodes. There's some good stuff on there. Obviously, we're sending a lot of things towards counseling care, some amazing resources with Marcus and his team. So, man, I feel empowered in at least my relationships around me to be able to step into that in a different way. So.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think this is great for those guys. So,
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time for another edition of Man Talk.